More than 30 people have been killed and dozens more injured in an apparent suicide bombing at a mosque in Pakistan.
At least 3 people are dead after a Russian missile attack hit the Ukrainian port city of Kherson on Sunday.
It's been 3 years since the WHO raised the alarm level over COVID-19. But how prepared are we for the next pandemic?
Carried to safety, these are the lucky ones. A suspected suicide bomb has hit a mosque in the northwestern Pakistani city of Peshawar. At least 32 people have been killed and about 150 others wounded. It's believed the bomb was targeting police. Local media says 300 to 400 officers were present at the time. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has strongly condemned the attack, saying those behind the incident have nothing to do with Islam. No one has claimed responsibility.
The Ukrainian port city of Kherson came under sustained Russian shelling on Sunday. Local authorities claimed that a hospital and a school were hit in what they called deliberate targeting. At least 3 people have been reported dead, but there could be more. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the shelling in his nightly address. Zelensky says today the Russian army has been shelling Kherson atrociously all day. Residential buildings, various social and transport facilities, including a hospital, post office and bus station, have been damaged. 2 women, nurses, were wounded in the hospital. As of now, there are reports of 6 wounded and 3 dead. Russia's Ministry of Defense claimed that the shelling had destroyed 2 US-made counter-battery radar systems, as well as an artillery ammunition dump. The European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said ahead of an EU-Ukraine summit next week that Ukraine has unconditional support from the bloc and needed to prevail against Russian attacks to defend European values. It's only a drill, but the fear is real. The Estonian government is calling a snap military exercise session for more than 800 members of the paramilitary Estonian Defence League. According to Major Andreas Vali, the military drills were adapted to the combat experience in Ukraine.
Based on the lessons of the Ukrainian war, we use more small unit tactics and we exercise dispersed combat operations on terrain with the emphasis on the usage of anti-tank systems, so that there wouldn't be only the anti-tank units, but also infantry personnel who would be able to use the anti-tank weapon system.
The primary objective of the exercises are to test the National Defence chain of command and its rapid response structure in achieving combat readiness. Estonia relies on reservists to make up its army. This is why it organises regular peacetime exercises in order to maintain and boost the ability of the reserve structure to react in a timely fashion.
Authorities in Australia have stepped up the search for a tiny, potentially deadly radioactive capsule which went missing in January. The Western Australian Department of Fire and Emergency Services says it's bringing in new radiation detection equipment that can be fitted to vehicles. Close exposure to it could result in burns, while being near the tiny capsule for a longer period could lead to acute radiation sickness. It's believed to have fallen off a truck while being transported along a 1,400-kilometre strip of desert highway from a mine in the country's remote west to a storage facility.
Heavy rainfall continues to batter New Zealand's North Island, causing landslides, flash floods and destroying roads. Homes have been inundated and Auckland, which is New Zealand's largest city of 1.6 million people, remains under a state of emergency. Police have confirmed that a man missing after being swept away on Friday is dead, bringing the number who've lost their lives to 4. Climate change is causing episodes of heavy rainfall to become more common and more intense in the country. A colourful parade ushered in the Lunar New Year in Paris. It's the year of the rabbit and sees the return of public festivities in the French capital after a break since 2019 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. While this year the actual day of the lunar year fell on Sunday, January the 22nd, it's traditionally celebrated for 2 weeks. The Year of the Rabbit brings with it the promise of a general rebound of the economy, health and peace.
Renault is reducing its stakes in Nissan as part of a major rebalancing of the auto giant's sometimes fractious union. The drop will be from 43.4% to 15%, putting the shareholding of both companies on equal footing. The disparity between their stocks had been a cause of friction, especially after Nissan had become much more profitable. Tensions between the two parties over the shares imbalance have peaked after the dramatic downfall of joint boss Carlos Ghosn, who was arrested in Japan on fraud charges in 2018. He later escaped and fled to Lebanon.
It's been 3 years since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a public health emergency of international concern, its highest level of alarm. Since then, the virus has claimed close to 7 million lives, 2 million in Europe alone. But some experts say this data is an underestimation. Compared to 2020, the major element that has allowed the situation to greatly improve is the COVID-19 vaccines developed in an unprecedented amount of time. Public health expert Professor Jeffrey Lazarus says several subvariants of Omicron are currently infecting thousands in Europe and continue to claim lives. On top of that, one major concern remains for the scientific community.
We know that millions of Europeans have had or have long COVID, but we don't know exactly how many. It's one of the important pending, I would say, urgent issues for European health authorities to monitor the long COVID situation. It's very serious.
Professor Lazarus says whether booster doses are recommended to fight long COVID is still uncertain. Greece, Germany and Spain are the last European countries to make face masks mandatory in certain closed areas, but the rule is about to be lifted. Professor Lazarus warns vigilance must remain high as we are still in a state of pandemic. He adds that governments must continue to fight against vaccine hesitancy.
In spite of all the preparations that were in place, we were not ready for this pandemic, and the general population was completely taken by surprise, as were many governments. So now we know the importance of pandemic preparedness, and I think that is going to be with us forever.
Scientists warn that COVID-19 is likely to remain in our repertoire of diseases and that other pandemics are looming due to the closeness of humans and animals caused by factors such as climate change and intensive farming.